Welcome to the reading from EVERNIGHT, and this is chapter 15, and it's called The Soul Cage. Wake up, my pet. That's it. Double A opened his eyes, moaning, as the dazzling, blurry brightness of a cloudy sky came stabbing through a narrow window. He tried to move, and became suddenly aware that he was strapped in a chair, bound at the wrist and waist and ankles. Panic grabbed him, wringing his guts. He spat out involuntarily, frightened sounds. A hand rested on his shoulder. Someone had been standing behind him, and now they walked around to face him. Double Eight's eyes opened wide, and his fingernails scratched at the arms of the chair. Every white witch knew this face from the posters and paintings and annuals. He was looking up at Mrs. Hester, the king's witch and leader of all the white witches in the world. "Don't speak," she said, raising a finger to her red, full lips. "Not a word, unless I ask you to." Double Eight managed a nod. His entire body was trembling. He'd never been so frightened. "You might have heard," Mrs. Hester said, "that we've been having a spot of bother. White witches running away with the help of the hags from Westerly Witch. I find this disgusting. Don't we feed you? Don't we give you a safe place to live, shelter and work? Don't we?" Again, Double Eight managed a nod. The fear in him was cold and grabbing. Mrs. Hester reached into her brilliant white robes, and she brought out something small and shining. Double Eight almost vomited. It was the hag spell he'd hidden away under the floorboards. "A loyal witch in your dormitory reported you," said Mrs. Hester. She held the spell up, watched it curl around the inside of the bottle. Then she brought out her wand, a length of dark, polished wood with an angry green spell in one of the metal revolver chambers. "Who gave you the hag spell?" Double Eight, shaking so much now that the chair was beginning to vibrate, shook his head. "I don't know. I never saw her face." Mrs. Hester stepped closer. Double Eight fixed with such a frightening stare that he felt his throat lock up. She was intensely beautiful, but somehow he could sense that her beauty was a mask, that there was something rotten underneath. "You never saw?" she mocked. She raised her wand, flicked it, and the angry green spell flashed bright in the bottle and became a dazzling, smoky cobra. The snake reared back and thrashed forwards in a blindingly quick movement, sinking its fangs into Double Eight's bound hand. He screamed in pain and terror as the spell snake's venom scorched his insides. Every part of him was in agony, burning and turning to ash. He wanted to die, wanted to leave the pain far behind. Mrs. Hester pulled back, and the snake let go. "I'll ask again. Who gave you the hag spell? Who was trying to help you escape?" Double Eight was blinded by tears. The pain was gone. He could see no puncture marks on his flesh. He sobbed. "I swear on Mother Earth I never saw her face. I don't know." The snake flashed down upon his hand again, and his insides were blazing, searing. He heard himself scream. "Let me die," he thought. "Let it be done." Again the snake broke away. It struck 5 more times. Mrs. Hester watched with interest as Double Eight screamed and thrashed, as ugly veins and blood vessels stood out on his face and neck and hands. Barely conscious, he heard her say, "All right, I believe you. No matter, I suppose. We will catch her." The glowing snake spell vanished, and Double Eight wept, a strange mixture of relief and dread rising in him. Mrs. Hester walked into the shadows. She returned carrying what looked like a bird cage, but the bars were made of an otherworldly, silvery material, as if someone had taken threads of moonlight and twisted them together. Inside the cage was an object stranger still. At first glance, Double Eight thought it was a winged creature made of warm golden light, and the closer he looked, the more unsure he became of what he was seeing. And the feeling it elicited in him, this ethereal thing, was at once happiness and longing and overpowering sorrow. "You know what this is?" Double Eight knew instantly. He knew, and as he knew the sky was blue or the sea was wet, that the thing in the cage was not a creature at all. It was part of him. Double Eight was looking at his soul. "That's right," said Mrs. Hester as Double Eight's insides crashed and a desperate longing pulled at his heart. "You belong to me. Every White Witch does." She tapped on her forehead and screwed up her eyes, and for only a flash of a moment he thought he saw her true face, ancient and rotting. She reached out and touched the tip of her wand to his chest. Double Eight shut his eyes and tried to brace himself. Mrs. Hester, though, did not fire a spell. "I think I might have left a tiny bit of your soul in there," she said, tapping her wand against his breastbone. "That's why you want to be free." She leaned so close their noses almost touched, and when she breathed on him, Double Eight could smell the faint whisper of death and disease. "But you will never be free. I could take it now, you know. Take the rest of your soul. It would be easy. And how I would love to watch that light in your eyes fade. Watch all your silly ideas of freedom wilt away." "Please," said Double Eight, and the light from his soul became a kaleidoscope of colours through his tears. Mrs. Hester straightened up. "But I'm not going to do that," she said. "I'm not going to take the rest of your soul, and do you want to know why?" She stroked at the strange glowing bars of the soul cage. "When a White Witch dies, if that witch has been a good servant, I release the soul. This means Grey Alice can guide the witch across the desert of bones to the next life. But a traitor, well, a traitor does not deserve the freedom of death. I'm going to use you as an example. I'm going to show every White Witch what happens to traitors. I'm going to hang you in Reaper's Square. And when your legs have stopped twitching, I'm going to put your soul on display. And you, boy, will be forever trapped between life and death. Ha! Let's see how many of your kind try to run away after that." She leaned forward and wiped the tears from Double Eight's face, and he smelled that deep-set rot again. "Look on the bright side. Most White Witches live and die without leaving a mark on the world. Tomorrow, Double Eight, you will become infamous."